It could be New Orleans, not Belfast, for the British Midland Ulster Rally, if it wasn't for the weather. This event counts for both the Dunlop and Shell Championships, and if he wins, David Llewellin could get his second British title.
If we win this event, we cannot be caught. So obviously that's the aim, to try and clinch it and finish the job. But if we're second, then it'll probably go on a little bit further, depending who wins the event. So, you know, we really need to go out there and win it and put the thing in the bag, and then we can relax for the rest of the championship.
Although Austin McHale has a comfortable 20-point lead in the Dunlop Championship, his day has not started too well.
I tested my car and I felt that the clutch wasn't really 100% in it. So we were getting you clutch in and put it in, so it was 15 minutes. So, you know, just experience.
Did you have a clutch put in, you did?
Oh, we had a spare clutch, yeah. But after experience in the circle, you know, I didn't want to take any chances.
Everyone has their own favourites, but Malcolm Wilson is not too optimistic about the wet conditions.
The stages are a much better nature for us than the circuit. They're a lot faster, which helps our car. But you know, when we have conditions like this, as wet as they are now, well, there's no substitute for the four-wheel drive traction and braking.
Now, you've been over the stages. How would you describe the stages?
I think they're terrific. They're definitely some of the best stages for a while. They're really fast, they're really flowing. They're all drivers type stages. You couldn't ask for any better stages, really.
The rain after the long dry spell will make the roads extremely treacherous. What is the goal for Kenny McKinstry?
My task really would be to win Group N. It doesn't sound much, but believe you me, with the entry in Group N, it's going to be, I would say, quite a big one. So that is the task. Gwyneth Evans is going to be, I would almost certainly think, the biggest threat. You have Andrew Wood, who is going to go very quickly as well. He's lying third in the championship at the moment. And you have Bob Fowden, Fennell, a lot of those guys are all going to be very quick.
Miss Northern Ireland helps to lift the storm clouds as the seconds tick away to the early afternoon start. For David Llewellin, the conditions couldn't be better for his four-wheel drive Celica, and he is determined to take advantage of the wet while it lasts. For Colin McRae, one of the few people who could beat Llewellin in the Shell Championship, the downpour is a setback. Austin McHale and Dermot O'Gorman, the Donegal winners, are playing for a top 10 finish rather than an outright victory to protect their Dunlop Tarmac Championship lead. But their big rival Bertie Fisher must do well if he is to close the 20-point gap that Austin has in the series.
Special Stage 1, and Llewellin arrives like a meteor. He opens the hectic 26-hour event by taking 11 seconds out of the opposition. Too much go, very little stop. That's Malcolm Wilson's problem in the wet. He's only 8th quickest. Things are worse still for Colin McRae, who's got a rear puncture in the ex-Conico Cosworth.
Boggle Hill, and the mind boggles at the ingenuity of this hydraulic grandstand. The view's great, but the seat's a bit uncomfortable. As Dye pops over the hill on this stage, north of Guildford, he has pushed his lead to 26 seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slight left and absolute straight crest, long, 130.
But there's a sensational second for the Irish fans, Austin McHale and Dermot O'Gorman. This is more than a steady drive to the finish as predicted by the Dubliner.
Right over crest and turn square left at pole. And slide right.
Austin urges Dermot to call the notes quicker.
Quick left, cut, 70. Easy right and left, cut. Straight crest, and easy right and absolute right, 100. Absolute right, 100. Easy left, 60, very fast left. 170. Quick right, straight crest, and easy left, cut. Easy left, cut, and quick right.
Graham Middleton and Kevin Shaw an excellent third, but they are under pressure from the fast-closing Colin McRae, who is far from intimidated by the conditions and making up leeway for that first stage puncture. Malcolm Wilson is also making up ground. But again, there's that brake-locking problem in the Q8-sponsored Works Ford. Slippery stages are second nature to Swede Håkan Eriksson. Look, Dad, here's Kenny. McKinstry's in home territory, but he's complaining about a down and power engine, and he trails Gwyneth Evans for Group N lead. Evans, looking on spectacular here, is in fact in 4th place, ahead of his Group 8 teammate. Andrew Wood in the Castrol Cosworth is another top Group N contender. What do you call this boy? Paul Franklin? Boy, he can send her on. Now the grandstand's on the move to higher ground. It's fun, it's ingenious, and above all, it's safe. Dave Metcalf is as ever giving it all. He's up to 7th in the 1600 Nova. Now we're up here, and here comes Robbie Head in the Group N Honda Civic. A fine wee motor.
Crest into 3 right and 3 left.
From Boggle Hill to Babylon
60.
Hill, and Kenny McKinstry guides us down the
Bump
third
into 3
treacherous
left over
stage.
jump. Into 2 left, maybe over jump, 60. 1 right, 40. Flat crest and bump 40, quite danger. 4 right, tightens. And crest into 4 left over junction.
The Calibre car is 9th, and there are plenty of other good news stories from the Irish camps. Austin McHale is still flying in the Extravision BMW, though he slipped from 2nd to 4th. Bertie Fisher is in 7th place and climbing. A bad tyre choice has cost him time. James Cullen is really trying. He's 8th. Again, tyres have been the problem. And here's Ericsson widening the Ulster roads in his Peugeot. Mount Pleasant is in the Tandragee area, and Kenny McKinstry has got a young audience as he attempts to close the 9-second gap between the 2 Group N Sapphires. Dave Metcalf's audience, on the other hand, is somewhat more mature, who says rallying doesn't have a wide appeal. Colin McRae is now really lit up and up to 2nd place in the 3-door Cosworth. Malcolm Wilson is 19 seconds behind in the 4-door version. Let's go back inside Austin McHale's car as he masters the saturated mud-masked back roads of County Armagh. This isn't for the faint-hearted.
Quick right long and easy right bumps 120. Crest and very fast left tightens. Repeat, tightens. 150. Straight jump 170.
Graham Middleton has slipped back to 5th behind McHale. And here's a much tamer but still highly effective Gwyndaf Evans. Cullen is far from tame. The double caution left-hander has caught out the Donegal man, but the situation is quickly rectified. Terry Cabey is always giant killing in the Group N Daihatsu. He leads his class. John Morton now drives one of the seldom seen Group N Lancia Integrales. But Terry Cree is not doing so well. Remember him? He was one of the hedge hoppers in the 1989 Circuit of Ireland.
Wilson is really on the limit at the Haldane Fisher Derby Bridge stage. David Llewellin and Phil Short, however, seem to be very much in command. Austin McHale, always quick in the wet, has certainly raised a few eyebrows this afternoon.
Absolute right.
Inside on this very fast section of the stage, we see just how committed you have to be on wet roads at these speeds.
And slight left. 70. Turn quick right at pole. Quick right at pole. 150. Absolute crest. 250. Sign.
In top gear, the BMW is doing over 130 miles an hour. James Cullen and Ellen Morgan crawl out of the stage with the clutch gone in the Brookland Sierra. More newcomers to the Group A Cosworth Club. Stephen Finlay and Desi Wilson. They're in 15th place. Bob Tharden has handling and mechanical problems. And John Morton has inflicted heavy damage on the rear of his Lancia.
At Summer Island Service, just north of Armagh, David Llewellin updates us on the current situation after 5 stages.
So I think we're just about half a minute in front of Colin. And basically that's what he lost with his puncture on the first stage. So because his times have been I would say excellent on the stages since then. I mean, he beat us on a couple, we beat him on a couple, and there's nothing in it. I got the feeling he must be sticking his neck out a little bit.
We're trying to go like hell and not getting anywhere. But no, it isn't too bad. It's obviously a bit dangerous. We had a bit of a moment in the last one, and it was a good job there was a long K right followed a long K left, otherwise I don't know quite where I'd ended up. But it looked very good, I think, if somebody was watching, but it didn't feel very good for me.
A broad rally so far. We've started this rally on the wrong tyres, took a gamble which didn't pay off, lost about 15 seconds, and on the last stage there we had a spin and just touched the bank with the front wheel of the car and got puncture, and we lost another half a minute in there, so we're about a minute down on us and McHale now, and you know, probably somewhere just outside the top 10 maybe, you know. But it's a long way to go.
It's good now for us if it's slippery, because the powerful car can't get it to the ground, you know, so I hope it's wet and rainy more.
Underneath James Cullen's car, the mechanics work furiously to keep it in the rally.
At the moment, we're still trying, hoping that may just be adjustment. They're adjusting at the moment and trying it, and I think it's working. The last time they tried, they still couldn't get any drive, but there seems to be drive coming now, so hopefully it's just adjustment. Time, and we'll say we probably heated a bit, maybe damaged it slightly, but fingers crossed it'll hold together.
How long will it take to change a clutch here?
About 25 minutes, 30 minutes probably.
You don't have that time?
We don't have that time, but we'll use up some for road time if we have to, but hopefully we won't need it.
Franklin again stars in Ireland. He's 10th overall in the 1600cc Peugeot. Bertie Fisher and Rory Kennedy in the Toughmac BMW have dropped from 7th to 11th after that accident on the previous stage, but the BMW is now perfect. Talking of punctures, talking of understeer, Stephen Finley's front left has blown, but there's still half of the stage to go. Terry Cabey's in the top 20 with the Group N Daihatsu, despite this little indiscretion.
Crest into 3 right, 40. 4
Stage
right
7 is to decimate the hopes of many of the top runners. The problem is a left-hander about a mile and a half ahead, which has already caught out Llewellin and McRae, and which will also claim Andrew Wood, although all will continue. Fowden and Ericsson are off on other corners, and Franklin has had 2 spins. And McKinstry?
80. Flat left, 60. Flat crest into 3 right over crest, danger, 60 crest and 6 left. Crest and 6 left. Into 3 right. Will you just get the next car slowed, can I? Aye, well, I'll get the next car slowed.
By the angle of the Cosworth, it looks terminal. Robbie Philpott abandons, but there is a gate conveniently to hand and a possible exit route. Middleton goes through. 1 minute has gone. A bit of rock and roll, and we're free again and back on the stage. Gwyndaff Evans, the arch rival in Group N, goes through. We're now 2 minutes down in this stage, but all will not be lost if they can hold on to him. Robbie's back in the pipe. The recovery is amazing.
100.
We're nearing the end of a highly adventurous stage for Kenny McKinstry and Robbie Philpott.
One right into one right, 60. Two over jump into one left, 60. That's it.
At Castle Dawson service, everyone's talking about that corner, including the rally leader, David Llewellin.
I touched the brakes coming into it and it just locked the brakes up. And I knew I wasn't going to stop. So it would just throw the car in there and give it plenty of power and hope we got round, which we did just. There was a smallish bank when we came around the corner, and there was a telegraph pole which we just managed to miss, and we hit the bank, which sort of, we went right up on top of the bank, back down onto the road, and luckily it only pulled the tyre off the rim.
With the weather still deteriorating, Llewellin will return to Belfast with a 1 minute 5 second lead, if not yet half the rally complete. Malcolm Wilson is 27 seconds clear of Colin McRae in third place, but praying for dry roads tomorrow. And Colin McRae, happy to be third after that puncture in the first stage and the excursion to the field on the 7th.
100 miles an hour at 6 a.m. in the morning? That's a pretty startling alarm call for the new rally leader, Malcolm Wilson. Colin McRae is promoted to second despite a wrong note on the last stage. And to the relief of his many fans, it's Llewellin. He's lost 2 minutes with a puncture. Another sensation. Bertie Fisher is fourth.
43 left, maybe.
Inside McKinstry's car again. He's now Group N leader since Gwyndaff Evans dropped back following a late evening incident on stage 9. And we come across some of the drama on the previous stage. Cullen passes
Flat
after a puncture.
40, flat right over crest, 60. Dip to bump, 80. 4 right. 100. Bump.
And now
dip.
we're being slowed.
100. Danger.
That's Ericsson, who's crashed the Peugeot heavily, and he's out of the rally.
Left over bumps, 40. 3 over crest, a dip, 80. 3 right over crest.
2 stages to go to breakfast and a chance to see some of the hard chargers appear out of the Fermanagh mist. Dave Metcalf leads the 1600 Group A class and he's an amazing 6th overall. Paul Franklin in the same class is almost as impressive in 9th place. Rob Barry in the Group A Sapphire uses the handbrake to great effect. And James Cullen, after his many problems yesterday, is back in the top 10. Most spectacular of all, Robert Pugh. He's 4th in the 1300 class.
Bertie Fisher is now very close to home base. He's leapt from 7th to 4th this morning, and the Ballinamallard hero returns home a happier man. Paul Franklin is in less familiar territory, particularly when there's a cock-up in his pace notes. It's not been a happy rally for Richard Smith, who seems to lack the fire seen on the Circuit of Ireland. The other local Cosworth of Stephen Finlay is totally confused by this junction. Desi Wilson finally gets his driver sorted out, and they're in 8th place overall. That's Stephen Price about to be overtaken by John Morton. As the Lancia flies through, Stephen's Nova pulls off with a hold radiator caused by an accident further down the stage.
And now the traditional breakfast halt on the British Midland Ulster Rally in Bertie's backyard at Fisher Engineering. He's happy to be home.
It was a bit of a gamble at the start of the first stage whether or not to go on slick tyres or go on intermediate tyres, and we decided to gamble for slick tyres, and it was the right choice, and we went from 7th to 4th in one stage really.
Malcolm Wilson leaves for the Fermanagh Mountains with a 1-minute 10-second advantage and 8 stages still to go.
2 stages later, Wilson's still leading, but in big trouble. The back axle is smoking, and the works Ford will shortly retire. David Llewellin and Phil Short are second, and shortly to retake the lead. But Colin McRae is late. Are we about to lose first and third? Graham Middleton is third on the road, but he trails the similar BMW of Bertie Fisher, who's had a fabulous drive throughout the morning, and who'll soon go into second place. Dave Metcalf is fourth now, repeating his giant-killing performance on the Manx International last year. But an unwell Paul Franklin, who's still in the top 10, loses valuable time here as the front-wheel drive Peugeot struggles for grip in the White House mud. Stephen Finlay, doing his first international in a Cosworth, is on a charge and he'll shortly be sixth. At last Colin McRae appears, but he's in tatters. 12 minutes have been lost after an excursion into a ditch.
4 stages still to go and David Llewellin updates us.
A lot of action on that last stage there. We caught Malcolm just as we came to the end of the stage, and he obviously had a problem with the back of the car. A lot of smoke coming from it. I thought it was just a puncture, but apparently it was the rear beam has broken. He's obviously hit something and broken the rear beam on the car, and I think he's retired from the event. So, and Colin actually went off and got stuck for 12 minutes as well. So really, I mean, that's rallying, isn't it? Look how much he's turned around since this morning.
Fortunes have turned for Gwyndaf as McKinstry has retired, and it's been tough.
It's a tough route. It's very bumpy, very twisty, and also the times between the stages is very short. Servicing time is very short, so you can't afford to have any problems on the actual stages. So when you put it all together, it just adds to a very tough event.
It's not been easy for Colin either, who has overcome his problems to be fifth.
It's been a very, very tough event, and a very good event, very hard event, and probably getting closer to what real rallying was. It's very, very hard, difficult, and it's been proven like many people have had problems on the events.
Ulster is always stuff. People think of just as a day-and-a-half event, but it's really a 3-day event condensed into a day and a half, and it's very, very tough. I mean, this just shows you the way the leaderboard has gone since we started. You know, Malcolm's had problems, David's had problems, kept going, Colin's now had problems. I mean, it could have been anybody's rally, really. But there's still a lot could happen yet.
Certainly feeling the strain is young Paul Franklin, who overcomes his exhaustion to get back on the stages, only to have the engine of his Peugeot expire, a sad end to a brilliant drive.
And so to the final countdown of the 1990 British Midland Ulster Rally, which this year contained the Skoda Trophy 90 runners for the first time. Steve Wedgbury and Ian Regan are the winners, from Rob Farmer and Clive Meredith, who tried oh so hard to demolish the favourite and the Ulster countryside. Alan Cathcart and Jerry Miller took the 1300cc Group N. Robbie Head and Campbell Rory dominated the 1600cc Group N class in the Works Honda Civic. Terry Cabey and Dillis Rogers were the Class 3 winners. Seamus Carey and Michael Gibson won the 1300 Group A class against stern opposition. Patrick Betteridge and Norman Quayle were the only survivors in the 2-litre Group A class.
And so to the top 10, Andrew Wood and Dougie Patterson recover to take 10th and 2nd in Group N.
Another great recovery, Mike Rimmer and Brian Hardy in the Loctite BMW.
Colin McRae and Derek Ringer have to be content with 8th after their Stage 16 accident.
Gwyndaf Evans and Howard Davis, outright winners in '89, Group N winners in 1990.
Stephen Finlay and Desi Wilson, 6th overall, and 3rd Irish crew home.
Dave Metcalf and Ian Grindrod, an amazing 5th overall in a 1600cc Nova.
James Cullen and Ellen Morgan, despite clutch problems and a puncture, a fabulous 4th overall.
For Graham Middleton and Kevin Shaw, 3rd is by far their best finish on tarmac.
Bertie Fisher and Rory Kennedy are justly proud to be the top Irish finishers in second place.
And for the winners, David Llewellin and Phil Short, there's only one sadness. This is likely to be Phil's last appearance on an international, as the stocky short man is retiring at the end of the season.
As the Toyota GT4 covers the last few yards of the Ulster Rally, it transports David Llewellin and Phil Short to their second successive Shell Open Championship. The likeable Welshman has won 4 British rounds in succession to tie up the championship with 2 rounds to go. It's a success too for the Northern Ireland Motor Club, whose organisation is universally praised, and indeed for Bertie Fisher.
I think yesterday, whenever we were 14th overall, I think we'd have settled quite happily for second or third. You know, I was fairly happy this morning when we went out and saw that the roads were dry. You know, I was fairly confident that we could very quickly come up the leaderboard, and that's what we've done. Obviously, we've benefited by others' misfortunes, but you know, that's rallying, and we're very pleased to be here in second.
Mathematically, Kenny McKinstry and Andrew can still win the championship. They need to finish the next 2 rounds. They need to win both the next 2 rounds, and me not to finish. But it's looking pretty good.
So Bertie's second place and Austin's non-finish brings the Dunlop tarmac gap down to 5 points. James Cullen moves up to just 20 points behind the leader with 3 rounds to go, and Kenny McKinstry, despite a non-finish, still has a 10-point lead in Group N.